All right, let's get right into this. We're going to talk about a guy named Walter Russell, and he's a real puzzle. He's a figure who sits at this incredible intersection of art, science, and some really deep mysticism. A world-class artist, hanging out with presidents and inventors, who then turns around and says he's figured out the entire universe. And that right there is the core of it. It's like there are two Walter Russells. On one side, you have this celebrated artist, the guy the rich and powerful trusted to sculpt their portraits for posterity. But then there's this other guy, the cosmic visionary, who creates this wild, complex, new theory of everything. How can these two people be the same person? That's what we're going to try to figure out.
So, to even begin to get a handle on his cosmic ideas, you first have to understand where he came from. You have to appreciate his authority in the world of art. Because really, his credibility as an artist is the foundation for everything, and I mean everything that came later.
Look, Russell wasn't just some guy doodling in a notebook. He was a serious talent, formally trained first in America, then he goes off to the big leagues, the prestigious academies in Paris. He became a true master of his craft. He understood form, light, balance, the power of a perfect line. The guy knew how to make things look real.
And because he was so good, he got commissions from the absolute top of the food chain. We're talking about sculpting Mark Twain, doing portraits of FDR's kids, and his bust of Thomas Edison. It's still famous. He literally spent decades earning the public's trust by creating these beautiful and what everyone considered truthful images.
And he wasn't just working for these people. He was one of them. At just 24 years old, he joins the Twilight Club. This was an intellectual circle with heavy hitters like Ralph Waldo Emerson and Mark Twain. He's meeting with Theodore Roosevelt, Andrew Carnegie. He even becomes the president of the club later on. So this is not a guy on the fringes of society. He was at the very center of it all.
Okay, so let's get to the moment where it all takes a hard left turn. Because in May of 1921, when he was 49 years old, everything changed. The master artist, the society man, he became something else.
And in his own words, it was intense. He says he experienced this profound, light-filled illumination. For 39 straight days and nights, he claimed the universe just downloaded its secrets into his brain. He said he became pure mind, totally aware of his body, but separate from it. This was his origin story.
And here's the thing. He came back with receipts. He didn't just have a cool story to tell, he frantically scribbled down everything he was shown, filling thousands and thousands of pages with notes and these incredibly detailed drawings. This became the blueprint for the rest of his life's work. The artist who represented the world of men was now trying to represent the entire cosmos.
So this is where it gets really fascinating. How did he communicate these huge revelations? He didn't just write a bunch of dense philosophy. No, he did what he knew best. He drew it. He translated all these invisible forces into a stunningly original visual language.
Now, the core idea is actually pretty simple when you break it down. He called it the two-way universe. He said that everything, all matter, all of reality, is just one substance, which he called light. And this light is just constantly moving in a perfectly balanced rhythmic way. You have compression, which is gravity, pulling things in. And you have its equal and opposite force, expansion, or radiation, pushing things out. A universe of perfect eternal balance, not random chaos. And this is where his artistic genius just takes over. His diagrams don't ask you to believe, they tell you this is how it is. First, they have this incredible architectural precision. They look like engineering blueprints, right? That's on purpose. It wraps his mystical ideas in the language of science. Second, he takes the spiral, this ancient spiritual symbol, and he turns it into what looks like a mechanical process, a gear in the cosmic machine. And finally, everything is in perfect symmetry. It just looks balanced and orderly. His drawings convince your eyes before your brain can even start to argue. Well, you can probably guess what happened next. This completely radical vision, born from a divine revelation and expressed in art, it was on a collision course with the scientific establishment. See, Russell wasn't content to just philosophize. He wanted scientists to say, "You're right."
And so he threw down the gauntlet. He famously claimed that his periodic charts from 1926, which he said came directly from his illumination, actually predicted the existence and properties of elements that science hadn't even discovered yet. We're talking things like deuterium and the elements beyond uranium, like neptunium and plutonium.
And the reaction, both then and now, is just completely polarized.
You have the scientific establishment, like this Dr. Jackson back in 1930, basically saying that challenging Newton is blasphemy. But then you have his supporters, even today, who have a very different take. They claim his knowledge was real, but it was suppressed, hidden away in top-secret laboratories. I mean, it's two totally separate realities.
And get this whole fight played out in public, in the pages of the New York Times. In July of 1930, Russell goes public. Dr. Jackson fires back, calling it profane. Russell just coolly replies that science needs an artist's imagination. But then, and this is the wild part, a few months later, Dr. Jackson completely reverses himself. He publicly withdraws his criticism and admits that he's now immensely intrigued. What a turnaround.
So even though mainstream science never really bought into his theories, you have to ask, why does his vision stick around? Why are people still fascinated by this guy all these decades later?
Well, I think the answer is in the sheer power of the system he created. The way he used his art makes these huge, complex ideas feel simple and intuitive. His diagrams aren't just charts, they're genuinely beautiful. And at its heart, his work offers something we all kind of crave, the promise of a universe that makes sense, a cosmos that's coherent, balanced, and ultimately something we can understand. That is a deeply appealing idea.
Which leaves us with the big question, right? Who was Walter Russell? Was he a misunderstood genius, way ahead of his time? Was he a brilliant artist whose greatest masterpiece was actually his own intricate, self-contained reality? Or is his story just proof of how powerful a beautiful idea can be, whether it's scientifically true or not? That's a lot to think about.